So let's keep on with the earnings. We're sticking with Europe, where Royal Dutch Shell, the world's second largest publicly traded energy company, reports weak results for the second quarter of 2019. Profits slumped 30 months low due to lower oil and natural gas prices, and margins from refining falling far short of forecasts. Net income attributable to shareholders in the quarter, according to Shell, based on current cost of supplies and excluding identified items, was down 25% to $3.6 billion year-on-year. Shell joins rivals Total and Norway's Equinor in reporting weak results for the quarter. And as you have heard from Ashutosh Pandey earlier, Barclays, one of the biggest banks in the UK and around the world, has reported a net profit £1.03 billion for the second quarter of this year in what has been described as the best statutory first-half performance in nearly a decade. The British lender also upped its dividend payment by 20%, announcing that the bank would pay an interim dividend, cash dividend that is, of 3 pence per share, in a signal of confidence in its capacity to improve returns. Barclays says it expects the full year 2019 dividend to be around 3 times that figure. So the FOMC today is the day of the Fed. Yesterday was the Fed, today is the Bank of England. We've got the BoE cutting its forecast for UK growth over the next 2 years. This comes as the policymakers say a no-deal Brexit will hit the economy and trigger a further drop in the value of the pound. The BoE also left interest rates unchanged at 0.75% against the backdrop of weaker global growth. Julian Olayinka is my colleague and he's standing by at our London studios to bring us up to speed. Tell us more about what Mark Carney has said. Good afternoon, Juliana. It's good to see you.
Good afternoon, both.
Yeah, what's your takeaway from the BoE as well as the preparations for a hard fall, what's called a no-deal Brexit, extra funding, £2.1 billion. Who's going to be getting what within this money? Does it tie with the BoE's outlook, cutting UK's economic forecast?
Well, I must say we've heard the Bank of England reiterate this statement time and time again, so it's certainly not made much of an impact, but it is trickling down with just 92 days to go, BoE's, and it finally does feel for the ordinary man like me and many of our viewers who are watching in the UK that there will be a Brexit on October the 31st. The £2.1 billion that was announced this morning is in addition to the £6.3 billion that's already been set aside for Brexit. Sajid Javid, he's the Chancellor of the Exchequer. He clearly is just doing his one job, the one job he's been appointed to do by such a hardline Brexit team, which is to make sure there's enough money in the purse to deal with the consequences. They've laid out clearly exactly where that money will go. £344 million of that money will be put at the border. They're also securing £434 million just in case there is some really crucial life-saving medication that they can't get through to the UK. They'll be stockpiling on those. And then there's also £100 million being put to educate people, because there are many people, we heard from several business leaders last weekend, that they're just completely unprepared. Nobody knows what to do. So the government is really pushing to make sure everybody knows just exactly what will happen on November the 1st once they come crashing out. But of course, there has been lots of backlash. There's been lots of backfire. The Labour government is saying this is completely unacceptable. And there are even some people within the Conservative government who are Remainers that think that this is outrageous. So it seems like we are actually indeed leaving the EU on the 31st of October.
Very interesting, Juliana. Looks like preparing for war, looking at billions of pounds being set aside for just for a Brexit. It's good. We hope everything gets better for you folks there in the UK. And of course, it will reverberate at least somehow around the world from November the 1st, as you put it. But let's talk about Jerome Powell. This is the morning after. What's the numbers looking at, like right now for the UK equity and currencies? I know the pound is taking a lot of beating, and perhaps the latest FOMC decision is not helping things at all for the sterling.
It's so interesting because 24 hours ago, I would say the city was completely petrified, even though, of course, any interest rates cut from Washington is seen as it helping or to stimulate the global economy. But everyone knows it stimulates the US dollar. And considering just how low the UK sterling is trading on it, they were worried. But of course, we've seen from the reactions on Wall Street, which closed abysmally earlier this morning in UK time, and Donald Trump's outrage on Twitter, that it just wasn't enough. Let's have a look at the All Share, because this morning the FTSE opened really low. The All Share is down 0.23%. The FTSE 100 is also down 0.24%, and the FTSE 250 is down 0.09%. Sterling today is trading much lower on the dollar, 0.40% lower. £1 today will get you $1.21. Not good. The pound is just up on the euro by 0.02% and down on the Japanese yen by 0.20%. I must quickly say before we leave, Bosun, that those PMI numbers, the manufacturing numbers, have come in again for the third month in a row, below par, below that 50 points. So that's exactly what the market is reacting to at the moment.
Yes, Juliana, thank you so much. I think we have enough bad news to go around the markets and the economy. Thank you so much, Layback. Tomorrow is Friday. We'll see you again then. Thank you so much, Juliana, from our London studios.
Thank you, Bosun.
Okay, thank you. So the folks in Asia are having dinner by now, and those who've had early dinner will be retiring to bed as we speak. So the markets closed lower on Thursday because the data showing Chinese factory activity contracted in July, while official data revealed South Africa's exports fell. This is pretty bad news when you look at some of the world's best economies. The Shanghai Composite fell nearly 1%. The Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index shed about 0.75%, still dealing with the protest there, while the benchmark Kospi in South Africa ended its trading day negative 0.36%. And the U.S. stock index futures are now taking a different direction the morning after, that's Thursday today, after thanking yesterday when the Federal Reserve dampened hopes of a lengthy easing cycle following a 25 basis points rate cut. The Dow futures indicated a gain of more than 80 points in early trade just up before the bell today, while futures on the S&P and the Nasdaq were slightly higher. We'll take a break. When we come back, we have a bit of one earnings also from here. South Africa's Woolworth reports its numbers and is pulling out of Ghana, just as they did from Nigeria a few years ago. Stay back, everyone.